Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. It is the 21st of Sagittarius, and it is the day of reindeer. Now, for our astrology, the sun is in Sagittarius, mutable fire, representing adventure. The moon begins the day void of course, and then at 9:55 a.m. Central Time, it goes into the second quarter of Taurus, fixed Earth, which is about pursuing values. Mercury is retrograding in Sagittarius, mutable fire, which represents travel disruptions. Venus is in Aquarius, fixed air, representing the intellectual. Mars is retrograding in Leo, fixed fire, which is tempered action. Jupiter is retrograde Gemini, mutable air, which is to broaden perspective. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, which represents nostalgia. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, which represents intuition. And Pluto is in Aquarius, fixed air, which represents reformation. For our retrograde reminders, remember for Mercury, rethink communication patterns. For Mars, reconsider what you really want. For Jupiter, reconnect with your true path. For Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. And Chiron is about restoring the heroic spirit. We currently have a waxing gibbous mood, so root into your plans, refine where needed, and remember that the theme of the Taurus moon is practicality and endurance. So at this time of year, many of us are needing to be running hither, thither, and yon, which does make the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius with its impact upon travel particularly undesirable and potentially extremely inconvenient. So do be careful about all of your travel arrangements right now. There's nothing wrong with double checking to make sure that everything is shipshape. However, the Taurus moon is coming to our rescue at least somewhat because that encourages us to focus upon what is feasible as opposed to what is ideal, and to also learn patience as we work through the day's hurdles. So that's not necessarily the funnest atmosphere to be operating in, but we can glean something worthwhile through it. And I guess this could be a day when many of us have to work on our coping skills when we are confronted with obstacles. Today's tarot is the mistletoe. Now, in this deck, the mistletoe stands in the place of the lovers, as we might expect. It is number 6 in the major arcana, and that represents relationships. And the key words for this card are relationships, attraction, and values. The lover's card, it's always been a bit more complex than just, ooh, there's romance on the way, or oh, this is a good thing, or oh, a relationship is blossoming. It's always a little bit more than that. It has to do with where your attention is keenly focused. And the reason why the lovers is a really good metaphor for that is because when you are romantically attracted to someone, there's a little bit of tunnel vision that tends to go on, particularly if we're young and we're inexperienced and we're not necessarily, having a little cold dose of practicality to infect our view. It can be very idealistic, and we're just saying about this person who we're wanting to run towards. However, we can become similarly, I don't want to be, say, obsessed, but certainly focused upon projects or ambitions or even our ideas. And this is where also values comes in. Because one of the ways that human beings actually bond is through common values. I mean, attraction, that can be, oh, someone had a pretty face or they had a very persuasive way of speaking. It can be any of these number of things that can ultimately be, a little bit superficial. But when it comes to values, the kind of the person that someone is on the inside, that goes way deeper. And that can also apply to other aspects of our lives. What organizations we get involved with, who we do business with, various friendships that we may choose to cultivate or not, as well as potential romantic attachments. That is going to be going right down to our values. And sometimes we also have to examine, are our values, what do they really consist of? It can be too easy just to say, well, here's my little list of values, and to have a very surface level understanding of what those things are and give lip service to a lot of ideas without really looking upon their impact that they have when applied in reality. So sometimes we do need to go back and really examine what is the impact of essentially what I'm preaching. Even if you're not necessarily practicing what you're preaching, which I hope you're not in that situation, because I do believe that we should walk our talk. But if we're not willing to look upon the consequences of what we do and what we are actually promoting, that can lead to some pretty sticky situations. And worst of all, it can lead us to fooling ourselves into thinking this is good and virtuous when perhaps the impact is indicating that it is not. So there's a lot of different ways this particular energy could manifest, but certainly I think it does draw attention to our fact that we might be experiencing that tunnel vision and we might find it difficult to see anything outside of what we're wanting to look at the moment. Then today's Celtic triad, there are three schools of one who is wise: conscience, reason, and instruction. So, conscience, of course, that's holding yourself accountable to standards of conduct that you have embraced. The function of your conscience is to alert you when you have deviated from that, or to confirm that you are actually on the right track. Now, of course, our conscience has to be trained. Otherwise, we can find ourselves making all kinds of excuses for things we might say or do. There is a little, I don't want to say squishiness, but it is a little bit more complex than simply declaring that you have a conscience and saying that you listen to it. What that conscience measures against is significant. Then reason, we do need to be making use of our brain cells beyond the purposes of preventing that echo chamber within our skull. Sadly, we see as we go through life that there are some people who choose not to utilize the brain cells that nature saw fit to give them, and they absorb whatever they happen to be around. They repeat whatever the people around them are saying and doing. There's not really anything that's really coming from that person, and they're certainly not applying their intellect or trying to reason things out for themselves. They're just copy and paste, to do as the crowd does, and that's all that there is to it. So it does require effort for us to rise above that, particularly in the day of social media, and especially when there are so many people who are extraordinarily skilled at diving right to people's emotions and bypassing the function of reason altogether to get them outraged about this, that, or the other. So we need to be careful of to what degree we are allowing ourselves to be manipulated like that. And then finally, instruction. Teachers are everywhere. There are teachers who set good examples, and there are teachers who set very bad examples. But no matter what kind of example a teacher is setting, and no matter what it is that they are teaching, there's a great deal to be learned from, including, what not to do, or what ideas don't actually work, what ideas don't result in human thriving. Really the only thing that is preventing us from making use of, these teachers who are everywhere, seeing what people do and learning from it. The only obstacles really ourselves, so just taking the time, slowing down, and giving things to think. Then today's correspondences, they are centered on the idea of fidelity. For this, the color is white, the plant is the rose, the animal is the horse, and the crystal is the diamond. Fidelity, the color association is pretty obvious because white has everything to do with purity. Now, some would interpret it that as chastity. I do not, because I think purity is something that goes a bit beyond any sort of concept of chastity. It's about being able to make a commitment and adhere to something and not allowing blemishes in, and that's very closely associated with the idea of fidelity. And then with rose, the rose was a very convenient choice, so because roses are one of those flowers that can be pretty much universally substituted for any other flower. Then the animal's the horse. Horses have, by their nature, especially if the person to whom they belong, and they can be extraordinarily loyal. Now, usually we think loyalty, our first thought oftentimes, especially in Western culture, is, the dog, the family dog, good old Fido, who's with you through thick and thin and who loves you, whether you've been living up to the best of yourself or whether you've been really going off track. However, the horse, noble creatures that they are, they do reward those who treat them well. They remember who it's worth being loyal to, and it goes a bit beyond just whoever happens to be feeding them. There's a bit more involved with that. And then for the crystal, the diamond was a very good choice for the idea of fidelity, not only because of its associations with common marital customs, engagement rings that are usual in our culture, But just because they are the hardest stone, you the certain kinds of diamonds are actually used for drill bits. Whatever you are needing to get through, the diamond is going to be able to see your way through that. And that's one of the functions of fidelity, of being able to get through temptations or obstacles or anything of that kind. So this idea of fidelity really encompasses being loyal to a person or to a set of principles, or to just being able to convey ideas accurately. We in this day and age of reporters, very, very freely putting their own slant on absolutely everything. That unicorn of a journalist who simply conveys to you the facts that were at their disposal at the time of publication, without inserting, their own fears or hopes into that. That is a very rare thing. It is rare to see fidelity to that, of someone who is simply trying to, this is the information I have. It is to the best of my knowledge. It is as sourced as best as I can. That is an extraordinarily rare thing. So there's a lot of different directions that we could use to perhaps attract fidelity, try to encourage ourselves to show greater faithfulness where we ought to, or to uh, cultivate that kind of thing in the world, and appreciation for it. Lots of different avenues we can go with this. Then today's hearthkeeping hint, it is about the front door, and I hope you like the pictures I found. Your front door really does set the tone for your household. It is speaking to the rest of the world. It is your household's first ambassador to everyone else, whether you intend for it to serve that function or not. So keeping it tidy, presentable, attractive. This is not about buying the fanciest door in the universe. It's not about having extravagant decorations or anything else, but it is about, is it neat? Is it clean? Is it in good repair? And, is it in harmony with its surroundings? And it being in harmony with the house's surroundings, that goes a long ways towards having the door be attractive. And when you are successful in doing those things, that communicates your personal diligence towards your household, because that kind of upkeep doesn't happen by itself. And but it also conveys your sense of self-respect. You have enough value for yourself and your family that you want to put your best foot forward out to the rest of the world. And I think it also indicates the treatment you require of others permitted in your social circle. Some people, they are a mess, and all they're going to bring to your doorstep is further messes that had nothing to do with you. So when you have this front door that's conveying, we have things in order here. We have things in order. We are creating beauty where we can. We are trying to have things be nice. I think in a way that kind of discourages people who are just, agents of destructive chaos from coming to your door, because they can feel within themselves that they don't belong there, unless they are wanting to come up to scratch. That's that they this isn't the sort of place where they belong. So that's just a little bit of food for thought. Next up, today's practices. Our little tidbit is that the roots of Yule and other similar celebrations throughout the world goes extraordinarily deep, particularly into time. Most peoples throughout history and on different continents have had some sort of observance at this time of year. I want to emphasize this because, just as every year we have a lot of content coming out that goes into the pagan origins of Yule and all these other various things, we also have some members of Abrahamic religions who are very desperate to divorce themselves from the idea that the church adopted anything from pagan peoples, trying to debunk our claims. I would encourage you not necessarily to engage with those people directly, because there's probably nothing you can say. They are trying to find justifications for what has become also their customs and part of their cherished traditions. And they're not really looking for truth. They're looking for justification. They're looking for permission within the paradigm of their worldview. And, that's their funeral. That is absolutely their deal. But what we can do just to strengthen our own selves is just to review our own information, and to look at not just any particular culture that we've honed in on, because a lot of us work with pagan gods who were, essentially the gods of our ancestors. You go back deep enough in time. However, I would encourage you to kind of cast your net a bit further and see that this observance of the solstice, or a holiday that is around this, that is marking this winter time, of just how nearly universal it really is. Because when you start seeing that pattern, you think, It's just, yeah, I think we're a bit beyond debunking the pagan roots of the festive season. Then for divination, I will have a Yule spread for you. And then, what do you think the archetype of the winter seer can teach you? And then for meditation, you might choose to focus on the theme of easing into hibernation because we're not quite there yet. However, once the festivities of Yule are completed, I think we'll be ready for a little bit of repose. So thinking about, the rest that is to come. And then you might carry or wear some cracked quartz today. Now for that promised tarot spread. This is the Yule Winter Solstice tarot spread. It comes to us from newAgeHipster.co. It is four cards. The first is Gifts of the Season. The second is Lessons and Blessings to Hold. The third is What Needs to Die So You Can Live. And the fourth is How to Bring the Sun Back In. So you can use this to jumpstart your meditations and help you course correct, as well as to discover the nature of your next chapter. We have our plans, but this might give you an indication of whether or not your plans are aligned with the universe's plans, because you might find yourself getting swept up into a very different tide next year. And if that is in the cards for you, well, this can possibly give you a heads up. I know I've been slacking a little bit this week on having things posted under my community tab, but I remember for a fact that I did post this spread and the spread that I will be using in the Yuletide Tarot video. So definitely check that out if you're interested in using those. And of course, let me know how it went for you if you do. Then in our creative corner, we have holiday newsletters. These are really a step above and beyond the customary cards, and they can serve as an opportunity to not only connect with our relatives and kind of fill them in on the big parts of the news, but we can also perhaps consider the possibility of circulating a pagan newsletter amongst those who are share our faith or are very akin to it, and just what's been going on with it. Interesting things that people have discovered. This could be a way for us to keep in touch with other pagans who live elsewhere. And, just I wanted to toss this idea out there because even if it's a bit late in the year and, you don't think, oh, I don't really have time to prepare to do this year. Well, it is a year for next year. You will come again. So if there's anything that you're looking at your timetable and thinking, oh gosh, I'm just, it's not going to happen. It is just flat out not going to happen this year. Instead of berating yourself up or or getting super disappointed, why not just put that in the to-do column for the next year? Because if you spend the whole next year preparing for what you want to do, not only will you be checking off a lot of your bucket list that you want to get done for Yule, but also it gives you an opportunity to do things in a more relaxed and a non-time constrained fashion. Whereas here now we really are getting down into crunch time. Then for the journal prompt today, are you getting any nudges about what direction your next chapter should take? This is an extension of today's meditation thing that I suggested, because we have our plans, we have our ideas, we have our ambitions and our goals, and sometimes our gods are like, "That's great, kid. You'll be going over there. I know it's diametrically opposed to where you intended to go, but trust me, believe me, you gotta go that direction." So if you are getting those nudges, particularly if they are surprises, definitely make note of those. And of course, writing all of that in your journal, it gives you an opportunity to perhaps reflect a little bit more deeply. There's something about writing your thoughts down, pen to paper, that just it takes it on another level. It takes your thought process to just a very different place. So, happy journaling. And on that note, everyone, have an absolutely magical day. I wish you bright blessings and all of the joys of the season. I would like to briefly welcome some of the new subscribers who've come on in the last few days. I want to offer my continued appreciation for those who are leaving the likes and leaving those beautiful comments and encouraging me and encouraging other people. It means a great deal. So thank you ever so much for that. But I will see you guys in the next one. So bye.